Have you ever felt like your emotions were running the show? One moment, you're calm and collected. The next, a single word, a passing insult, or a piece of bad news sends you spiraling. It happens to all of us, and in those moments, it feels as though we're powerless against the storm brewing inside. But what if you could master that storm? What if you had ancient wisdom at your side, timeless words from philosophers who faced betrayal, hardship, and cruelty, yet remained unshaken? Today, we'll uncover 7 powerful Stoic quotes that will teach you how to take back control over your emotions, not by suppressing them, but by understanding them, by learning to respond rather than react. So, wherever you are right now, whether you're sitting in traffic, lying in bed, or quietly scrolling through your phone, take a deep breath. Because what you're about to hear might just change the way you see anger, fear, and frustration forever. Let's begin. Let's begin with the first quote, a simple yet profound reminder from Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king of Rome. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Now, think about that for a moment. How often do we exhaust ourselves trying to control everything around us? The weather, other people's opinions, the outcome of situations that have already slipped from our grasp. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it escapes. Marcus understood something that most of us forget. Our true power lies not in the external world, but in how we choose to interpret and respond to it. You don't control the storm, but you do control whether you let it drown you. Imagine standing in the middle of a thunderstorm. The wind howls, the rain soaks your clothes, lightning flashes across the sky. You can scream at the heavens, curse the weather, or blame the world for your misery, but it won't stop the rain. What you can control is how you stand in that storm. Do you panic, or do you breathe deeply, steady your mind, and endure it with grace? That's what Marcus meant. Emotional control begins the moment you stop wasting energy on what you cannot change and start mastering what you can, your thoughts, your reactions, your inner state. This quote isn't asking you to be indifferent, but to be disciplined. Life will test you. People will disappoint you. Plans will fall apart. The question is, will you let those things dictate your peace of mind? Or will you claim authority over your own emotions? And when you start practicing this, you'll notice something extraordinary. The same situations that once threw you off balance won't have the same grip on you anymore. An insult becomes an echo. A setback turns into a lesson. Anger fades before it takes root. Marcus wasn't preaching from a place of comfort. He lost children, faced wars, dealt with betrayal. Yet he kept returning to this truth, that his mind was his kingdom, and no one could invade it without his permission. So, the next time you feel yourself slipping into frustration or anxiety, pause and remind yourself, I have power over my mind, not outside events. And in that pause, you'll find a kind of strength most people spend a lifetime searching for. Moving on to the second quote, this time from Epictetus, the once enslaved philosopher who taught that true freedom comes from within. He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Simple words, but they carry the weight of a lifetime's wisdom. Think about how much of our peace we surrender every day. A rude comment from a stranger, a delay in traffic, a missed opportunity. And before we know it, our mood darkens, our heart races, and we spiral into frustration or self-pity. But pause for a second. Was it the event itself that disturbed you, or your interpretation of it? Epictetus reminds us that between what happens and how we feel, there's a small sacred space, and in that space, we hold a choice. Imagine someone insults you in public. Their words sting, your pride feels bruised, and the urge to retaliate rises. In that split second, you have two paths. One, you let their words control you, snapping back with anger and escalating the conflict. Or two, you pause, take a breath, and recognize that their insult says far more about them than it does about you. What a difference a breath can make. Epictetus wasn't speaking from theory. He was born a slave, subjected to cruelty, and lived much of his life without possessions or status. Yet he became one of the most respected philosophers in history precisely because he mastered this art, choosing his reaction regardless of circumstance. Life, after all, is unpredictable. The world won't always be kind. People won't always be fair. But the one thing no one can take from you is your ability to decide how you will meet those moments. And here's a truth many overlook. Mastering your reactions isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally intelligent. It's recognizing the initial surge of anger, fear, or sadness, then choosing to respond with wisdom rather than impulse. Picture a lake on a still morning. The surface is glass, reflecting the sky above. Then someone tosses a stone. Ripples spread, disturbing the calm. Emotional control is not pretending the stone wasn't thrown, but learning how to let the ripples settle without stirring the whole lake into chaos. So the next time life throws a stone your way, and it will, remember Epictetus's words. You may not control the stone, but you control the ripples. That's the heart of Stoic strength. Not the absence of emotion, but the discipline to guide it. Now, let's move to the third quote, one that speaks to those moments when emotions surge so fast it feels impossible to catch them. This time, from Seneca, one of Rome's greatest Stoic thinkers. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Isn't that true? How many times have you laid awake at night, replaying a conversation, imagining a disaster that never happened, or worrying about a future that hasn't arrived? The human mind is a brilliant storyteller, and sadly, it's often the author of our own torment. Seneca reminds us that much of our suffering isn't rooted in reality, but in the stories we tell ourselves about what might happen. And if you pay close attention, you'll realize how often those imagined scenarios steal your peace, leaving you anxious over shadows that don't even exist. Picture this. You're waiting for a message from someone important. Minutes turn into hours. Your mind starts weaving a narrative. Did I say something wrong? Are they upset? What if something happened? And by the time they finally reply, with something entirely normal, you've already lived through 5 different worst-case scenarios in your head. That's the suffering Seneca warns us about. He teaches us to become guardians of our imagination, to catch ourselves when our minds start spiraling into catastrophes and gently pull ourselves back to the present moment. Because in truth, the present is rarely as unbearable as we fear. Imagine walking through a foggy forest at dawn. Every branch creak sounds like danger. Every shadow feels like a threat. But as the sun rises, the fog lifts, and you realize most of those fears were illusions of the mind. That's how our thoughts work too. Fears born in the dark often fade in the light of awareness. Seneca isn't suggesting we ignore genuine problems or pretend that life is free from pain. No, what he offers is clarity, the ability to separate what's real from what's imagined, so we don't double our suffering by reliving it in advance. And there's a quiet kind of power in that. To catch your thoughts before they lead you down a dark, unnecessary path. To ask yourself, is this real, or am I borrowing trouble from tomorrow? Because once you start doing this, you'll notice how much lighter your heart feels. The weight of imagined disasters, of what-ifs, and worst-case scenarios begins to lift. You realize that most storms only exist inside your mind, and you are free to step out of them at any moment. So the next time your imagination starts painting terrifying futures or replaying past mistakes, remember Seneca's wisdom. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality, and perhaps with that awareness you'll suffer a little less. Let's continue with the fourth quote, one that reveals a truth many people overlook about the nature of anger. It comes again from Seneca, who wrote, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." Take a moment and let those words settle. How often have you reacted in anger only to regret it later? How many times has your response to a situation left deeper scars than the situation itself? Seneca knew this well. That uncontrolled anger is like grabbing a burning coal to throw at someone else, and you end up being the one who gets burned. Picture this. A stranger insults you on the street. Your instinct flares. You want to respond, to put them in their place. But in doing so, you feed your anger, give them power over your emotions, and perhaps even ruin your entire day over a few careless words. The insult itself was brief, but your anger can linger, corrode your peace, and haunt your thoughts long after the other person has forgotten you existed. Seneca teaches us to restrain that first fiery impulse, not to suppress it, but to pause, to let it cool. Because in that pause lies wisdom. In that pause, you reclaim your authority over yourself. It's not about letting people walk over you or pretending things don't hurt. It's about choosing not to let your response cause more damage than the offense itself. As the Stoics believed, you cannot control what others do, but you are always responsible for what you do next. And here's a useful image to keep in mind. Imagine a candle in a dark room. When someone tries to blow it out, you have two choices. You can shield it with calm, steady hands and let it keep burning, or you can fan the flame into a wildfire that consumes everything, including yourself. Most of us, in moments of anger, don't realize we're holding a match to our own peace. Seneca's wisdom asks us to be the kind of person who doesn't ignite easily, to become someone whose calm unsettles the angry, whose silence speaks louder than outbursts, and whose restraint is a quiet, unshakable kind of strength. Because when you learn to control that initial surge of emotion, you don't just protect your peace in that moment. You build resilience for every storm that follows. Life isn't short of provocations, but each time you rise above them, you grow lighter, stronger, freer. So next time you feel anger boiling up, remember Seneca's words. Ask yourself, is this worth disturbing my peace? Will my reaction heal this or harm me further? More often than not, you'll find that silence, patience, or a steady breath speaks louder than any outburst ever could. Now, let's turn to the fifth quote, one that reminds us how fleeting and unpredictable life truly is. This time it comes from Marcus Aurelius, who wrote, "You could leave life right now, Let that determine what you do, say, and think. At first glance, it might sound morbid, but the Stoics didn't reflect on death to invite fear. They did it to sharpen their sense of what truly matters. Marcus wasn't asking us to dwell in anxiety about dying. He was reminding us to live with urgency, to strip away the petty annoyances and empty pursuits that so often waste our time. Think about it. How often do we postpone kindness, avoid difficult conversations, or bury our passions under the weight of routine? We live as though time is endless, as if tomorrow is guaranteed. But the truth, one we'd rather not face, is that none of us knows how many tomorrows we have left. Imagine standing in a vast, open field at sunrise. The horizon stretches endlessly, yet the light changes minute by minute. That's life. It seems abundant, but it quietly slips away while we're distracted by trivial things. Marcus Aurelius encourages us to keep this truth close, not to fall into despair, but to guide our priorities. When you remember that your time is limited, insults seem insignificant. Delays lose their power to irritate, and your focus naturally shifts toward what's worthy of your brief, precious days. Have you ever noticed how a crisis sharpens clarity? In moments of real danger or loss, what matters becomes unmistakably clear. The trivial fades, and you suddenly know who you need to call, what you need to say, and what's truly worth your attention. Marcus invites us to cultivate that kind of clarity, not just in emergencies, but every day. Ask yourself, if today were my last, would I waste it arguing with strangers online? Would I hold grudges or stay silent about the things that matter to my heart? Would I keep postponing peace of mind for someday? The Stoic answer is simple. You wouldn't. And so, we are urged to live as if time were a precious, finite resource, because it is. To weigh our words, actions, and thoughts against the possibility that this could be the final page of our story. It's not about being reckless, it's about being intentional. About walking through each day with awareness, choosing your battles, offering your kindness freely, and holding your peace like something sacred. So, the next time you find yourself caught in a moment of anger, frustration, or petty conflict, remember Marcus's words. You could leave life right now, and ask yourself, is this how I wish to spend what might be my final hour? Chances are the answer will be no, and in that awareness you'll find not fear, but freedom. As we move to the sixth quote, let's revisit one of Marcus Aurelius's most powerful lessons, one that serves as a quiet shield against the chaos of everyday life. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." It sounds simple, but how often do we forget it? How many times do we hand over the reins of our peace to traffic jams, rude remarks, or sudden disappointments? Most of us walk through life believing our happiness depends on the weather, on how people treat us, or whether the world behaves according to our expectations. And when it doesn't, we feel helpless. But Marcus reminds us of a truth so profound, it can transform the way we experience every single day. Your mind is your kingdom. Picture a storm raging outside your window. The wind howls, rain lashes the glass, and branches bend under its force. You can't stop the storm, but you can close the window, light a candle, and find peace within your room. The same is true with life. Events will happen, losses, insults, delays, betrayals, but they are not the masters of your state of mind. You are. Marcus isn't asking us to be indifferent to pain or injustice. He's asking us to stop pretending that external things have absolute control over our well-being. Between what happens and how we respond, there's a sacred space, and in that space lies your strength. And here's the thing. Most people never realize how much of their suffering comes not from events themselves, but from their judgments about those events. A job loss is devastating, or it's an opportunity. A breakup is heartbreaking, or it's a chance to rediscover yourself. An insult is a wound, or it's a reflection of the other person's character, not your worth. This isn't about toxic positivity. It's about reclaiming your agency, about reminding yourself that while you can't control the storm, you can control how you sail through it. Marcus Aurelius himself ruled an empire plagued by war, disease, and betrayal. He lost children, faced conspiracies, and lived with constant uncertainty. Yet, in his private journals, he returned to this principle again and again. You have power over your mind, and so do you. When life pulls you into frustration, when the world feels unfair, stop and ask yourself, am I responding to the event or to my opinion of it? That one question can create enough space for wisdom to slip in, enough clarity for you to choose a response that reflects your strength, not your impulse. Because in the end, the world will do what it will. People will act as they please, but your mind is yours to command. And in that, Marcus believed, lies real, unshakable freedom. And now we arrive at the seventh and final quote, a line that serves as both a shield and a compass for anyone seeking mastery over their emotions. It comes from Epictetus, who wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Simple, direct, and perhaps one of the most liberating ideas you'll ever carry, because if you stop to reflect on it, you'll realize life is unpredictable. People disappoint you. Circumstances change. Plans fall apart. Pain arrives uninvited. And while we don't always have a say in what comes our way, we always have the power to choose our response. Let's imagine it for a moment. Two people face the same setback. A business deal falls through. One curses the world, blames others, spirals into bitterness. The other takes a deep breath, learns from the failure, and quietly begins building again. Same event. Two entirely different outcomes. Why? Because one let the event decide their future, while the other chose their reaction. That's what Epictetus meant. And here's where the real power lies. When you recognize that your emotions are within your command, you become unshaken by things that would wreck most people. The angry driver, the passive-aggressive coworker, the sudden bad news, they lose their control over you the moment you realize their power is only as strong as your permission. Imagine yourself as a calm lake. Storms may rage overhead. Winds might stir the surface, but the depths remain still, untouched. That's the kind of inner life Epictetus invites us to cultivate. Not numbness, but stability. Not indifference, but resilience. Ask yourself, how many of my worst days were made worse not by events themselves, but by how I chose to react to them? It's a humbling thought, isn't it? But also an empowering one. Because if your reactions shape your experience, then you hold the pen that writes your story. Epictetus himself was no stranger to hardship. Born a slave, he endured mistreatment and hardship unimaginable to most. Yet through it all, he refused to let circumstances dictate his peace of mind. He understood a truth many people spend their lives chasing. Freedom isn't found in perfect conditions. It's found in the ability to control how you meet imperfect ones. So when life throws its inevitable difficulties your way, remember this quote. Whisper it to yourself when anger threatens to rise, when frustration gnaws at your patience, when fear grips your chest. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And in that moment, you'll reclaim the one thing that no person, no event, no hardship can ever truly take from you, your power to choose, and there you have it. 7 Stoic quotes to master emotional control, each one a quiet piece of armor for the storms of daily life. From Seneca's reminder about the weight of imagined troubles, to Marcus Aurelius's wisdom about owning your mind, to Epictetus's call to choose your reactions wisely, these teachings weren't meant for dusty scrolls or quiet libraries. They were forged in the heat of life's struggles, intended to be lived, tested, and returned to again and again. As you move through your days, carry these words with you, not as cold philosophy, but as practical, living wisdom, because emotions will rise, insults will come, plans will fall apart, and in those moments, you'll have a choice, to let circumstances rule you or to respond like the Stoic within you. You might not always get it right. None of us do. But each time you pause before reacting, each time you reclaim your peace in the face of chaos, you're training your mind. You're building the calm strength that the Stoics spoke of, the kind of inner power that no storm can take from you, and perhaps that's the greatest lesson of all. Control isn't about never feeling anger, fear, or sadness. It's about refusing to let those emotions decide your actions for you. Before we part ways, I'd love to know which of these 7 quotes spoke to you the most today. Drop it in the comments below. Let's keep this ancient wisdom alive, together. And if you found value in this video, don't forget to like it, share it with someone who might need a little Stoic strength today, and subscribe to Stoic Scrolls for more timeless lessons to help you navigate modern life with calm and courage. Until next time, my friend, stay grounded, stay resilient, and remember, the mind is yours to master.